What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Moguls. My name is Findlay-Shirras, and on today's show, we have a really cool guest for all you startup founders out there. You're definitely going to want to get to know and learn from this guy. He is now the GM of CRM, it's got a nice ring to it, at Compass, because his startup that he co-founded, Contactually, who knows that one, was bought by them in 2019. So this guy is one of the kings of CRM now. And before being bought by Compass, and we'll see how it's changed over time, 7 or maybe 8 of the largest 10 real estate brokerages in the country were customers of theirs. So they had a really great CRM. No wonder why they bought them. He is a startup mentor and advisor. He co-created the Washington, D.C. Tech Meetup, which has over 23,000 members. What is a physical show up of that look like? I wonder. It's one of the largest meetups in the country. He is a serial founder, CEO, CTO. He's raised money. He's been acquired. He's managed teams bigger than 75 people. He's had tens of thousands of customers. He was named the Washington Tech Titan, not once, but 3 times. He's been featured in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and more. Finalist of Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year. These are all things I would love to have on my resume. And now that he's had so much success over the last 10 years, he's bottled up his best practices, lessons learned, and strategies on relationship-based marketing and business building in his new book that we're going to hear about, Success is Your Sphere. It's coming out this quarter, I believe. So I know I'm excited. I hope you all are all too, to get to know and learn from Zvi Band. Thanks, Zvi, for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. You make me sound like so much more impressive than I actually am. And I also, one thing I noticed about you and I think you and I are like, good polar opposites in that you have an incredibly easy to pronounce first name that probably gets messed up a lot. And your last name, you just kind of
horrible.
Like through. I'm the opposite, where people think because my name is Zvi, it's got to be like the last name Band. It's got to be something weird.
Bond.
Right? Yeah. Bond, brand, bandana, bland, like band. Yes, like band, like rock band.
Well, hey, man, for all those people who don't know you, why don't you kind of give people an overview of your story and the experiences you've had that allowed you to create Contactually and then be a successful, tech founder who's now sold a company. I think that would be really cool for people to get to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a software developer by trade. I should be the last person, on a podcast talking about relationship building. But early on in my career, I realized that, almost just by happenstance, that the people I knew, but more importantly, the people that knew me, that was going to be my best asset moving forward in life. And I'm incredibly thankful that some amazing things have happened because I knew the right people. And so it started, I was running a consulting firm before this, knew that relationships were this important thing and wanted to find software to help me build relationships. Couldn't find anything out there that was satisfactory enough. And so I said, all right, well, I can build it. I'm a developer. We had no knowledge of the real estate industry, no real idea what we were doing, to be completely honest. But we started building software very early on. And yeah, fast forward to today, 9 of the top 20 brokerages in the country have been customers of ours. We grew the team to 70. We had we had 10 figures of revenue. Like, it is an amazing experience.
That is so. What do you think are some of your superpowers that you have that have allowed you to have this kind of success?
I wouldn't say I have any superpowers. I do try and make sure that I'm the dumbest guy in the room at any point in time. So a few kind of key things I think like that we did that were really important. One is we've always relentlessly focused on building really great culture, like those relationships, that are really important internally in the company, hiring great people, making sure that this is a really great place to work. We have, maintained relationships externally. Like, we truly believe our customers and our users are partners. And this is not just a transactional business. We both want each other to be successful. And that kind of came through during the acquisition, as I can share a little bit later on. And last but not least, I do believe that at the end of the day, forward velocity is the most important thing for a startup. And so, we built this attitude and culture that no matter what, the most important thing was move forward. This kind of goes back to, the early days when I would get 5 rejections from investors, in one day, and I'd go out and pitch the 6th the next day. As long as we were always moving forward, maybe we weren't always building the right thing or the best thing, but we were always moving forward. That bias for action, I think, was a critical trait that I'm very thankful that we were able to maintain over the years.
And humble is another one. So you're. I find a lot of good leaders and startup founders. You really do have probably a lot of superpowers, and you're humble at it too. And I want to touch on one of the things that you said. The culture, the hiring, it's something that I know for our company, like, it took us years to nail it. And once we nailed it, the growth really started happening. What are some of the things that you've done, or that Contactually has done, to improve your hiring and improve your culture, improve the onboarding of new people in the company? Because I know that's just so important for our company.
Yeah, and so I think one of the traits that kind of comes over from software development and kind of can permeate other aspects of the business is to build more of a introspective, but more importantly retrospective culture. What I mean by that is, the best people, teams, companies are the ones that can look inwards and identify opportunities to improve, without any ego or finger pointing or name calling. And so, for example, I would make sure that I met for coffee with every employee 2 weeks in, and I would just openly ask, "Hey, what could we have done better about about your onboarding experience?" We'd listen to that feedback and make changes. Engineers, of course, that's built in, as part of the sprint culture. At the end of every usually 2-week sprint, there's a dedicated time on the calendar where you ask yourself, a specific set of questions, mainly around, hey, what could we do better in the future? And so I think that's been important. So we're always, the culture doesn't necessarily rest on any one person to do or control or change. Instead, we kind of say, hey, how can we be better as a company? Everyone's aligned on the opportunity to improve. We may disagree on the particular avenues or tactics, and that's fine. Yeah. But we've always made sure that there is that strong ability.
How about what are some of your favorite questions or tests to do with people when you're hiring to figure out if they're a good fit? It's always some of it a crapshoot sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think, like, for us, we have codified our what we care about into a value system. And so from that, one thing that we try to do, for example, for cultural interviews, is to identify like certain questions that we think would be really helpful for that. And so one of our core values is to be user first. At the end of the day, we're not here to make money. We're not here to make customers happy. We're here to make users successful, right? And so that's been a very key important thing that like differentiated us from a lot of our competitive set. But so, to be able to test for that, one thing that we would ask in interviews is, tell me about a time where you faced a challenge between what's best for the user and what's best for the company. How did you navigate that challenge? And it doesn't always have to necessarily default to, oh yeah, I always did what's best for the user, or like the customer is always right. I think you need to avoid those platitudes. What you need to understand is that they have a thought process, and maybe in that case they did do something that was better for the company, and then we can iterate from there.
Interesting. I like it. Okay, now let's go deeper into the Contactually story and how you were acquired, because I know there's so many startup founders out there that would love for their company to be acquired. If anyone's interested in acquiring, come talk to me. But listen, so obviously you guys did some things right to make a company want to acquire you, some of the things I think about is, was Compass the only one interested in acquiring you? And also, what do you think made you acquirable?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a few questions in there. So I'd say within that, um, yeah, like we over the years we have received a lot of interest from a number of different parties, and very flattering and very thankful. And for years and years we were saying no. It was kind of more of a decision of not only like right company, right time, but more importantly, like we were at the right stage where we were honestly evaluating, hey, do we, kind of keep going as is? Do we raise significant amounts of capital and really kind of shoot the moon? Or, do we kind of, start, looking seriously at, who the prospective partners are and talk about that? And so we did make sure that we ran like a full process kind of as part of this. At the end of the day, I am very thankful that, it was Compass that we had a really tight relationship with for years. That was really great. So in terms of, why we were, like why we were, why this was the right thing, right time. And what I would advise for other companies, it's hard to say. I mean, I kind of equate this to to like investment decisions. And one thing I learned very early on, that investors, and therefore also acquirers too, because they're theoretically investing so much in you that they're buying you,
Mhm.
they're investing the horse to track the jockey, right? The track obviously is like, what is the market? What is the market opportunity? The horse, what is the company? What is the technology? What does it look like? And then there's the jockey, which is the team overall. And with Compass, we're very thankful that clearly, like, they believe that there's a huge market opportunity in real estate, hence their funding and this team size and the momentum they've built. And then in us, they saw that, okay, not only do they have, a really great piece of technology that, they had started working with, that, their agents kept saying, hey, we love Contactually. Why can't you guys build something like Contactually? But then they had also gotten to know our team. And we had, over the past year and a half or so, we had been starting to work with them and partnering with them. And we saw that there was a really great cultural fit. The values that we have do translate pretty well into their entrepreneurship principles. And so we just saw that our teams mesh really well together. And so that's kind of what told us and also told them, hey, this is a partnership that could really work out.
Okay. Now, Compass has had a stance that we raised all this money, we're going to build everything. And over time, we've started to see them start to buy some things, including you guys. So why do you think they made the decision to buy CRM versus build it? Because some developers out there, they'll be like, I could build a CRM, and so why do you think they made that decision?
Yeah, a great question. I can only give my personal opinion on this, about it, but I would say at a high level, Compass isn't necessarily, as I've kind of dug more into that with them. They're not focused as on necessarily being able to build everything themselves. What they have been very focused on is delivering that end-to-end experience where an agent doesn't necessarily have to go and choose, this tool over here or this tool over here. An agent should be focused on, selling homes and representing clients through, one of the most complex transactions of their lives. And so, that's why they say, hey, we want to be able to remove that headache for them in order to be able to better help them. And so, yeah, like we, because so many agents, had, kept talking about not only the product Contactually, but also the team Contactually, Compass started exploring it. We saw that there was a really good pilot that we could be running together. Again, not just like kind of saying, hey, we're going to give Contactually to every agent, but instead, how do we leverage the technology, the team, the processes behind Contactually to help power that end-to-end system? And that's how we got here today.
Very cool. And how has it changed? Like, how has your company changed since being bought by them? Are the customers that you have with other brokerages, have some of them been like, well, now that you're with Compass, I can't work with you. What's your customer base looking like, and how has that changed? And then how has the company changed since you've joined Compass?
Yeah, absolutely. A great question. So yeah, I mean, some have decided that, they, regardless of what we say, hey, like, we just want to kind of go our separate way and want to make sure that, the technology we use is independent of other brokerages.
Yeah.
Completely understand, respect that. But, for the vast majority of our partners, we're very thankful that they ask questions, they and basically came down to, can we still trust you? And we've made sure in absolutely every case, yes, like we are absolutely, like, you can still trust us, and we implement a number of different mechanisms to be able to support that. And that's why, our system's still humming, it's still up and running for the foreseeable future.
Awesome.
Clearly our team is investing our resources into the Compass CRM. So that's really important.
And what's that looking like? Is there any cool new stuff that's going to be built and added on that you didn't do before?
Um, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we're working. There is a lot of stuff that we're working on, right? It's hard to necessarily kind of put one pin saying, "Hey, we're building out this,"
Yeah.
because honestly, and people ask us what, and I trying to remove ego from this, but people ask us like, "Hey, why is Contactually set itself apart from other, from other CRMs, from other services?" And I think it's because our relentless focus on the user. And we've always tried to maintain that aspect of humility, that we don't assume we know what we should be building for our partners next month, next year, etc. Instead, it's been about, hey, let's launch this one feature, let's try this one thing, see how it works, and then almost like take a big step back and evaluate, okay, what can we do that's best for agents now?
What have been the challenge? Like, so, in building CRM companies, like there's a lot of CRM companies out there, and some people even think about building a CRM, some brokerage, some service. So like, what are the challenges that you face that people maybe don't understand or think would be the case when building a CRM company, that you didn't expect when you got into this, but it was a big challenge along the way?
Yeah, I'll kind of give two answers for that. One, a CRM is such a broad, such a broad moniker, and it compromises. If you just Google CRM, you will identify tens of thousands of products that call themselves a CRM and legitimately are. And therefore, the perception of what a CRM should include, or what I should be able to do inside a CRM, if you ask kind of 1,000 different people, you're going to get 1,000 different different answers. And so that is one of the big issues that we have, right? If you were to ask us like, hey, when did Contactually become CRM, we're like, we have no idea, right? There are probably still people who still say, oh no, you guys aren't just CRM because you don't have advanced business intelligence tools, right? Or data pipelines to XYZ product over there. There's so many reasons
Yeah.
why we may not have. And so that's why probably one of the harder things, and we've definitely made a number of missteps along the way. One of the harder things is identifying what aspects of CRM do we include that are important for us. And then the latter, especially given, I do believe like one of the common threads of CRM, given that it's a customer relationship manager, is some kind of contact data. And getting that right is really hard. People don't notice when we have all of their relationships in one place. They just kind of assume, yeah, that's how it should work. But oh my God, if if one contact, that happens to be the one contact that they're looking for, that they know is in their Gmail, that they emailed 5 years ago, isn't in their CRM, trust is completely gone, like completely gone, right? And so it is so hard to get it right, and so easy to be perceived as getting it wrong. And so we spent years and years and years getting to the point where people could trust our data. And very, very, very rarely do we get the question of, hey, why aren't all my contacts showing up in here?
Interesting. And I mean, it kind of goes to one of the questions is CRMs are so important. They really help an agent nurture their database because there's gold in the database. The majority of business comes from relationships and referrals and from the database, from the sphere. Yet something like 60% or something of agents don't use a CRM.
Yep.
It's something really stupidly high, so why do you think that is?
Yes, one of the symptoms is that people have a CRM or people aren't necessarily successfully adopting a CRM. The bigger issue, and this is across business professionals in general, is that we are so often wired for the short-term gains in our life that we oftentimes miss out on the long-term benefits, right? If all we cared about is how we feel and how our business was in 3 to 5 years, we would not be eating sugary cereals. We'd be going to the gym every morning, right? We would, not be just kind of relentlessly chasing kind of every new lead that just came in, but we'd be nurturing and maintaining those relationships that will pay off over long-term dividends. So listen, as human beings, we're wired from kind of, a primal nature to, seek out food and shelter and sustenance that will help us survive kind of overnight. So it's no surprise that, we're not necessarily wired to think about all the time and prioritize our lives around what's going to be best for us long-term. And so, listen, a CRM and the relationships in a CRM, they may not pay off for months, years, decades, potentially. Everyone can look back at the boat and know that, oh yeah, because I was really good at nurturing that relationship, because I knew that person, this business opportunity happened. But still, when you ask people, well, what are you doing today for that? Or how are you prioritizing your time? It's a very big stretch. And so, it does result in that stat that, you see very low CRM adoption, but it's more of a bigger issue that, people are focusing on their business of today, not necessarily the business of 3 years from
I love that, wired for short term, miss out on the long term. I love that. Have you learned any statistics over time, like seeing this data? What are some of the statistics you've seen on what percentage of people's databases and spheres convert into relationships, into transactions, and how beneficial is the database and keeping in touch, and how many touch points end up working? Have you seen any really cool statistics over time that really encourage more people to, one, build new relationships, put them in a CRM so you can manage them, and then really put some more time and effort into it?
Yeah, so I'll answer it a different way in terms of showing like the missed opportunity. I would ask the agent partners listening in on the show, to think about the number of past clients that they've worked with in the past that have gone on and done a transaction without their involvement, right? And if you ask most agents, it's a pretty sizable number. And that's backed up by statistics. According to the National Association of Realtors, 88% of buyers at the time of close say that they would work with their agent again. But when you ask consumers how they found their agent, only 12% had used an agent that they used previously. So that's pretty disastrous, right? So what's happening if 88% of the time you're doing a good job, but there's only a 12% likelihood that you're going to be working with someone again? That's crazy. What's happening, right? And I saw this myself personally. Like I bought a condo 6 years ago. Again, kind of newlywed. No question, I was likely going to have kids sometime in the next few years, etc. So I should be fertile ground. Of course, the agent should be staying in touch with me. And of course, no offense to her, she obviously got busy and was focused on other things, bought me a breadboard and never spoke to me again. And so fast forward, I was looking to buy a house. Well, I honestly did not remember my agent's name. And I did a quick search through my email to try and find it. I'm like, no, can't find it. Okay, fine. Obviously I'm in a position where I do have a lot of agents that I know and work with. And so I chose someone else. And that happens again and again and again. So when you think about the amount of money being left on the table, that should motivate people, right? It's a loss aversion that should be motivating us to build and maintain those relationships.
Are there any cool visions that you have for what CRMs can do for people? What new technologies can maybe be baked into a CRM, like AI, machine learning, or what can CRMs be thinking about in the future, being able to do for the agent or the local professional to help them stay in touch and nurture that relationship to win that business and decrease that 88 to 12 gap?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the vision that I've heard from other agents, including agents here at Compass, in that they want to be able to the point where they can just focus on selling homes, and helping people with this transaction. And so when you think about anything that is not actual direct engagement with a person, or with a family, how can we remove that? And how can we help them best maintain that relationship? So clearly, one of the things that Contactually did very early on was that we were really good at tracking all of your email conversations and calendar appointments. So if you emailed them, you didn't have to then go into your CRM and enter, I just emailed this person and here's their email address and their phone number and their first name and their last name. We would do it for you. There's clearly so much more that you can do on that access as well, right? What if our phone, what if not only we could pull in all of our phone calls and text messages into our CRM, but what if our phone, or we had some way of knowing who we were actually physically talking to? I run into one of my partners on the street, and my CRM recognizes that, right? Why can't we get to that point? What is stopping us from getting to that point? One of the things that we rolled out in Contactually is we started leveraging machine learning to identify the exact right time of day that they should be engaging with someone, because we're obviously tracking all the incoming, outgoing messages, and we see that, hey, Andy seems to be opening up most of your messages at around 11:30. Great. Let's go ahead and send him a message at 11:29 next time, so that you're right at the top of the inbox, right? So small little tricks that we can do that can help you not have to figure out, all right, when do I need to talk to them? What do I need to say? Who should I be following up with? Instead, you can just focus all of your time, doing what you do best, which is being you.
Are there any companies that you glean from that are kind of in related spaces that maybe haven't focused on real estate, but have some really cool technology to help people with outreach, staying in touch, like their CRM, their phone system, their skins? Because there's so many like sales enablement companies, sales automation companies. Are there any companies that you are impressed by that you kind of look to for some ideas?
Yeah, I do think so. I think one of the ones I think is most interesting to take a slightly different tack is Amazon's Alexa product line, right? Because if you see what it's done, it's integrated, an incredible amount of technology, or at least, access to things, seamlessly, not even at our fingertips, at our lips, right? That I can be scrubbing dishes and I can have a thought saying, hey, I would love to listen to this music, and I can just shout it out and something happens, right? Why can't I, have my phone on the table, when I'm talking to a client, and it's keeping track of every note and every conversation? Or I can be in my car. I don't even have to press a button. I can just say, hey, I should probably follow up with Alexis. And it's going to not only, it's not going to remind me to follow up, it's actually going to do that for me. So I do believe that, one of the key futures of computing is, merging our interfaces in more and more with our real lives. One thing, for example, Contactually did, last year that was really successful, in terms of making an impact for agents, was we rolled out a plugin inside of Gmail for you. So we've had something like this for years, but we finally built like a really, really good one. And that meant that you could access your CRM and CRM information without having to leave your inbox, right? So I kind of equate that to like Alexa, that you don't have to, break your gate and kind of change what you're doing. You can simply have an idea of something you want to do, and it's right there ready for you.
Very cool. Okay. Now let's go zoom out a little bit and talk about, some of maybe the stuff that you think about with real estate tech-enabled brokerages, like really big picture, because there's so much change happening. And I know last year at Inman or earlier this year in New York, I think it was, Purple Bricks was there, and it was like this model versus the traditional model. And now Purple Bricks is pulling out of Australia and pulling out of, so like there's so much change happens in a whole year. What are you seeing as the future of the brokerage, and how tech is going to either help or replace what's there right now?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say, right? And obviously, this is one of those like conversations I'm watching inside of Compass as well. I will say that the problem I see that in a lot of these conversations, inside of Inman and T3 and a number of different aspects, is that most stage time is devoted to changing the brokerage model, or what the different brokerage model is. And honestly, my attitude is, who cares, right? If what matters is the consumer sentiment changing, right? Is how a consumer buys and sells homes. Is that changing? Is we're seeing the millennials, of which I'm very proudly one, move more and more to a subscription economy, right? It's weird. I live in the suburbs, so now I have like 2 cars, but like I'm openly wondering, like, will my children, own cars and have a 2-car garage, or no, whenever they want to get somewhere, they press a button and they get there, right? That fundamentally changes. Are they going to have the same sense of home ownership as an asset, or are they going to say, or even frankly, are they going to be able to, purchase real estate? So I think those are the fundamental questions that I don't think are being asked enough.
Talk to me about your book and like what's inside of this. Is it a mix of your story and Contactually and best practices for all kinds of businesses that focus on real estate? Because success is your sphere. That could be a topic for all local businesses and local professionals.
Yeah.
So tell me about your book that you're coming out with.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Contactually, like I mentioned, even just kind of when I was starting this, it was focused on how do you help people build and maintain relationships with technology. And one of the fundamental things that we learned early on and started to gain real traction is that, yes, technology is really important, but there is a exponential difference in the outcomes depending on whether or not you go in already having a strategy in mind. And the best people, the best users of Contactually were the people that came in with one, found one, or built some kind of strategic approach to building relationships. Meaning that, Contactually could put all of your contacts in, and you can organize or prioritize your contacts however you want. But what most people weren't necessarily, very good at, just kind of, carte blanche, was, all right, well, who are the people that are important for me? How do I structure my network? And so I kind of ended up equating that to, Contactually is a really great chef's knife, but just having a great chef's knife doesn't make you a French chef. And so what we had learned so much around how to build and maintain great relationships that could not be represented in software. And so that was abstracted out into, the book that's coming out this month. So that's kind of really more, it's a companion for, for anyone, whether they're in real estate or not, whether they use Contactually or they're using a spreadsheet or another CRM, whatever they want to do. But it helps give them that strategic framework to think about, all right, how do I prioritize my relationships? How do I not just follow up, but add value? How often should I stay in touch with people? Those are the key questions that we were starting to really pull on.
What were some of your what are some of your favorite strategies and ideas there inside of there? Give me a couple of your best ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the key parts of the book is that this isn't just kind of me just dumping knowledge, dumping what I've heard or what I've seen, but it's also backed up by research. Then also there are dozens and dozens of stories from professionals and experts. And so what I love is the idea of building relationships by creating community. Right? I could invite you to coffee, Grant, and we can hang out, or I can also invite you to dinner with 10 other real estate entrepreneurs. That's almost like a better use of my time because I'm building a lot of relationships at once. They're building relationships with each other. So it's kind of a win across the board for everyone. And in order to make kind of these dinners interesting, you don't just do it at kind of a local Pizza Hut or something like that. Nothing wrong with Pizza Hut. I love pizza. But instead, it's like, well, what if you could do something different? How do you make that? How do you make that experience unique or special? And so there's a group in New York called the 747 Club, and one of the things they did at one point in time is they actually organized like a seated dinner in the middle of Times Square, right? Where we've all stood out and taken our pictures and all the billboards and lights and everything like that. They actually cordoned off a small little area and had a table where they served a full dinner for 10 people. So imagine, again, you're not just connecting with others, but you have this amazing shared experience. Like I had a sit down dinner like right here in the middle of Times Square. Those are the kind of experience I think are so special that may not necessarily take a lot of work. They may take a little bit more work than, again, just kind of inviting a bunch of people to dinner. So those are the things I think are really special.
What do you say to the agent who's like, it's just so much time. It just takes so much time to build new relationships and nurture these relationships and stay in touch with these relationships. I just want to talk to people who are in the market right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I hate to say, I would guess that my first thing is talk to someone who had been in the real estate business for more than 6 months, and you'll find that that every agent that's kind of really honestly survived over the years knows and understands that your relationships are your most important asset. And honestly, that's probably the easiest selling point about Contactually over the years, that I had to do very little work to convince people that this was really important. Is more of a question of could Contactually fulfill that vision for them. And so that's something I'm incredibly thankful for.
Right on. So there's a whole bunch of startup founders out there who want to get acquired. If you could just give one or two tips, tricks, best practices. Hey, if you want to build a company that can exit, here's one or two things to stay focused on and to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like my 3 tips when people have asked me for that. One, and this is fundamental, and I hate to say I have unfortunately encountered people who skip over this. You have to build something that is worthy of an acquisition, right? People have to bet on the horse, the track, the jockey. Really make sure that you have a company or a customer base or a technology or a team that someone could look at and say, yes, I want to be a part of that, or I want them to be a part of me. That's a really important thing. 2, it's nurture relationships, over a long period of time. Robert Refkin and I, he's the CEO of Compass. He and I think first connected in 2014, when Compass was just getting off the ground and Contactually was, just a little bit further ahead. And last is, seek advice, seek insights. Talk to your existing investors. Get an introduction to an investment banker whose job is to be able to broker sales of companies. Build those relationships, very early on. You'll find that, again, we were very thankful to partner with a really great investment banker. And, I had known him and been working with him for 2 to 3 years, and he had been helping me out selflessly, no problem at all, not trying to push anything for years. such the point that the moment I was ready to transact, right, and the right opportunity came up, he very quickly was able to snap into gear.
You used an investment banker. Some people talk about, like, should I just be able to sell a company on my own, or do I need an investment banker? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, your mileage may vary, but if you're if I would ask a real estate agent, hey, should I work with you, or should I just kind of sell the house myself, right? What's the success of that? I think
Yeah.
both are incredibly complex transactions. Both are likely one of the few that you're going to be ever going through in your life, and it's one of your most important assets. Theoretically, you absolutely could, and maybe in some cases should, work without some kind of representation. But whether it's a lawyer, whether it's an investment banker, whether it's a board, whether it's all of the above, as in our case, it's worth doing it. I mean, I think I looked kind of the day the deal closed with Compass. I looked, and on one of the emails, the CC line, there was something like 30 people. I'm like, wow, 30 people have been helping make this kind of partnership happen, just on like kind of the legal and financial side.
Wow. Wow. All right. Well, hey, that's it for today's show. I got 2-3 pages of notes. I hope everyone watching and listening took notes on this. Maybe you need to watch this again, because there was so much good stuff that was said. Thank you so much for being on the show. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is coming out this month. Success is in your
Nice.
sphere.com. You can also just go on Amazon or Barnes & Noble and just look for Successes in Your Sphere, and you'll be able to very easily find it. My first name is Zvi, Z-V-I. My last name is Band. So you search for Zvi Band online, and 99.999% of the chance that time you're going to be finding me. So
I love having a unique name. That's something that we both share. I'm the only Grant Findlay-Shirras in the world.
exactly.
It's very beneficial for networking. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. And as always, for all those who are watching, if you want to be great in real estate, whether you're a tech founder or an agent, a team, a brokerage, subscribe to the YouTube show, the podcast. Click the bell icon to get notifications when new interviews come out, so you can learn from some of the people who are experts in this industry, so you can have a success, because real estate is a great place to be. Thanks again, Zvi, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.